On the morning of June 27, 1976, Air France Flight 139 departed Athens bound for Paris. 248 passengers, 12 crew. By every measure, an ordinary flight. It would not remain ordinary for long. 45 minutes after takeoff, 4 individuals rose from their seats. 2 Palestinian militants, 2 German revolutionaries armed with weapons smuggled past security. They seized the aircraft within minutes. The pilots were ordered to change course. Destination unknown. After a refueling stop in Libya, the aircraft landed at Entebbe Airport, Uganda. Dictator Idi Amin had granted the hijackers full access. Ugandan soldiers took positions around the perimeter. The hostages were moved inside the old terminal building. They were now prisoners, 4,000 kilometers from home. Inside the terminal, the hijackers made a decision that shocked the world. They separated the hostages. Non-Jewish passengers were released. Those remaining, 106 people, mostly Israeli and Jewish, were kept behind. It was a selection. The echoes of history were not lost on anyone in that room. The demand was clear. 53 Palestinian militants held in Israeli prisons were to be released within 72 hours. If not, the hostages would be executed. Israel, which held an absolute policy of non-negotiation with terrorists, now faced its most direct test of that principle. In Jerusalem, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin convened an emergency cabinet meeting. The options were stark: negotiate and break a policy that had defined Israel for decades, or act. Chief of Staff Mordecai Gore was asked one question: was a military rescue even possible? Israeli planners worked around the clock. A construction firm had built the Entebbe terminal and still had the original blueprints. And when a scale model was built within hours, the plan: fly 4 Hercules aircraft 4,000 kilometers across hostile airspace, land at night, neutralize the hijackers, and extract every hostage in under an hour. On the night of July 3rd, 4 Israeli C-130 Hercules aircraft lifted off in radio silence. On board, 200 soldiers, including elite Sayeret Matkal commandos. They carried a black Mercedes, a replica of Idi Amin's personal vehicle, to bluff their way past guards. They flew low over the Red Sea, then south into Africa. At 11 minutes past 11, the first Hercules touched down without lights. A black Mercedes rolled off the ramp and moved slowly across the dark tarmac. The deception bought critical seconds, then a guard stepped forward and raised his weapon. The operation could no longer be silent. The commandos moved fast. They breached the terminal from multiple points simultaneously, shouting for hostages to get down. The firefight lasted minutes. All 7 hijackers were killed. 3 hostages died in the crossfire. 1 commando fell, Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, ground commander, an older brother of a future Israeli prime minister. The hostages were rushed across the tarmac. Commandos guided them, carried the injured, held the perimeter. From the Mercedes rolling off the ramp to the last hostage boarding, 53 minutes. The aircraft doors closed, the engines surged. One by one, the 4 Hercules lifted off into the African night. On board, 102 rescued hostages. The operation had been planned in 72 hours, executed in under 60 minutes, and the world as yet knew nothing of what had just happened. News broke as the aircraft were still in the air. By the time they landed in Tel Aviv, the story had reached every newsroom in the world. Crowds gathered on the tarmac. Israel had done what almost no one believed was possible. For Idi Amin, it was a catastrophic humiliation. He had promised sanctuary. He had called Uganda untouchable. Israeli commandos entered, used his airport, and left with every hostage. In a rage, he ordered the murder of Dora Bloch, a 75-year-old woman left behind in a Ugandan hospital. She was killed in her bed. Operation Thunderbolt became one of the most studied rescue missions in military history. Its precision set a standard special forces units still referenced today. Yonatan Netanyahu was mourned as a national hero. The operation was renamed in his honor Operation Yonatan. 50 years on, Entebbe endures as a question about what governments will risk for their citizens, about whether the impossible can be planned for, about the distance between a scale model on a table and 4 aircraft lifting off into the African night with everything to lose. Some questions history answers only once.